Hello, this is James Rees with Razorwire from Razorthorn. This is Coffee with Jim. Still got my stolen mug. Thank you very much for that, Jamie. No, you're not getting it back anytime soon. Right, where are we? So it's the beginning of the year, 2021. It's certainly been an interesting end of 2020. I mean, 2020 on the whole was a very long, drawn out year. There was a lot that went on. We're not going to go into that. We all know exactly what's happened. 2021, fresh year, fresh lockdowns here in the UK. Certainly going to be interesting from an economical standpoint. There's a lot of businesses that aren't doing particularly well. Even more so in industries where it was doing very well, because obviously before the new year, kind of over the Christmas period, news broke that SolarWinds had a bit of an issue. I did cover it in a brief post beforehand. What I really wanted to do was kind of let things move on, see how things played out, before really kind of covering it a little bit more in depth. Now, this is a bit of a roundup for last year, also kind of going into what I think is going to happen in 2021. If any predictions could actually be given at this time. But yeah, so let's start with SolarWinds. So SolarWinds, by all accounts, got hacked. Now, at the moment, there's a lot of discussion of whether it was state-sponsored, whether it wasn't state-sponsored, and all the rest of it. There's a lot of claims going around. Nothing I've seen so far that really kind of substantiates any of that. But needless to say, the outcome of it was a very trusted, well-used piece of software developed by SolarWinds, had an update meddled with, and was and some backdoors were put in. So far, based off of everything that I've read and everything that I've heard on the grapevine, about 18,000 organisations, both public and private sector, were affected by this balked update, by this corrupted update. Many of which were US government, UK government, a number of other governments around the world, as well as allegedly a number of the big audit firms and other very large organisations around the world, some of which have dealings with various different government bodies, some of which are sort of big industry, that kind of thing. This is having a pretty severe impact, and I thought it probably obviously would do because of the nature of what happened and who it had affected. So we know that Microsoft was affected. They've reported that somebody tried to prod around and get access to kind of like the core data repositories for some of the products that they provide. Didn't manage to get access to it, but they tried. Obviously, we know FireEye had the problem because they were the ones initially who discovered it. And we know a number of kind of US and UK government bodies have been affected. Now, allegedly, only a very small proportion of those organisations were compromised in the form of somebody actually getting in and fiddling around and installing backdoors and rummaging around their data repositories. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. I think a lot of that is just media. And the fact that people just don't know. At the end of the day, 18,000 organisations were compromised. So you have to assume that 18,000 organisations will have had somebody rummaging around in their infrastructure. If you are one of those 18,000 organisations and you're not doing anything to check your infrastructure, I think you're brave. But what I would feasibly do is spend a lot of time getting pen testers in, doing full security shakedowns of your infrastructure, looking for compromised accounts, looking for stuff that shouldn't be there in the form of malware, backdoors, that kind of thing. You need to really kind of have a proper look what's going on. Now, SolarWinds themselves are having some significant issues. Obviously, the share price has tanked. There are reports that there was a sell-off of stocks and shares before news broke, which is really bad if that's the case. Their own shareholders are actually at the moment suing them. Basically, they've said, "Oi, you didn't notify us of any of this, and the share price has tanked. So we're taking you to court." It's a really bad situation for any organisation to be in. Ultimately, when you read through the documentation as to what happened, I've read through the SolarWinds report on timelines, that kind of thing, and also some of the information that we've got outside of that. It rather indicates that this has been going on for some time and they hadn't picked it up. And the fact that they were using really insecure passwords for update servers, that kind of thing, doesn't show a particularly good security posture. What this is probably going to do. Before all of this kicked off, there was a big thing about third-party services and third-party reviews of security on services. The old adage, "You're only as secure as your weakest link," really comes in here. I think that what this is going to do is going to push a lot more people to look at their supply chain. This was a supply chain attack. The slight odd thing about this is, it was a supply chain attack on a provider of software, not on a provider of services. So I think there's going to be a lot more people now looking at development companies who supply them with critical software solutions, and saying, well, we're now extending our third-party reviews to you guys as well. And quite rightly, at the end of the day, if you're providing software, if you're developing software for network management, network monitoring, for key pieces of software, then you should have a good security posture. You definitely don't want people getting into your code repositories and fiddling around with them, and fiddling around with updates, or you certifying and rolling out an update that has some kind of compromise included within it. It is going to kill your company stone dead. Will SolarWinds survive this? I don't actually know. Everything indicating at the moment is there's going to be some severe litigation going around, and I've got a sneaky suspicion that there's going to be a lot more lawsuits coming their way relatively shortly, and these are going to be pretty unpleasant lawsuits that involve quite a bit of money. It's definitely going to change the industry, and it's definitely going to push security forward. Okay. We've also seen, that there's potentially attacks being done on healthcare authorities and providers, pharmaceutical companies, that kind of thing. And again, allegedly from state-sponsored hackers. There was a case just before Christmas, or just over the Christmas period, where allegedly somebody had tried to hack in and steal one of the vaccine, or details of one of the vaccine that's currently going around, or being planned to be released. So there's quite a bit of noise in the industry at the moment, both in the US and in the UK, about securing healthcare and making sure that healthcare is protected from cybersecurity events. And quite rightly too, we're having one of the worst health issues that you could feasibly have in the form of a pandemic. We cannot afford to have, in the UK, the NHS, pharmaceutical firms, over in the US, the various different sort of medical groups out there. We cannot afford to have them go down. We cannot afford to have them have security issues that could compromise the health of people, and the general public. it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Now, that coupled with all of the changes we've had to go through in 2020, with regards to people being sort of working from home, everybody's now kind of being told that the working from home thing in a lot of businesses is going to be an ongoing thing. A lot of organisations have discovered that they can save quite a bit of money from the big corporate offices that you had in places like New York and the UK, in London and what have you, by having a more kind of remote workforce. And because we've been kind of forced into a remote workforce situation, the previous issues that people have had with it, which was predominantly we don't know what our staff are doing, we want to make sure our staff are working properly, have all been kind of pushed aside now because it's a necessity. We've had to do it, and organisations have seen a benefit from doing that, and not just organisations either. You know, the workers in general. You get more time at home. You get more time with your family. You don't have to commute for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours every day to get to your place of work, which, you know, there's quite a bit of cost savings in that. Having commuted myself to London for many years, I mean, when I look at how much I paid out in train fares and taxi cabs and that kind of thing, I mean, wow, you know, it's just ridiculous. But we are moving very dramatically into a new world where predominantly a lot of people will be working from home. You know, it did happen before, as I've said before, you know, working from home has always been a bit of a thing, but now it is a big thing, and it means that all of the security that we've done over the years, which has been more kind of centralized focus, whereby you're securing an environment in a corporate office with maybe a few people who work from home, that kind of thing, and a bit of a provision for it, is now going to have to be turned on its head, and we're going to have to start rebuilding security in a very different way. Endpoint security, making sure that those endpoints are working in a secure manner on insecure or home networks, which, let's face it, I mean, the kit that you get from your ISP, no matter who it is never really the greatest quality. I mean, maybe some of that will change now because of the situation, but, you know, let's face it, I rarely ever use the ISP's router when I get it, and not just for work, but just in general, because it's rubbish. The wireless is rubbish, very insecure. Firewalling on it is usually a bit of a laugh. You know, you just don't do it. If you've got any skills or you know what you're doing, you don't use that device. You might use it as a bit of a modem, especially if you're using something like Virgin Media, because of the nature of how it works. But you would probably, you know, put in better technology to help protect your environment and make it work better, you know. So with everybody working from home, we're going to have to really change the way that we work. Data loss prevention, endpoint security, I can see SIEM becoming a lot more important. Making sure that you can track what those endpoints are doing and the types of communication that they're undertaking with the network at the central point, which will probably now be cloud-based. It's been cloud-based for a long time now, let's face it. There are a few companies still holding on to tin within a data center, but those days are rapidly going. A lot of people use Amazon AWS or Azure or one of the other sort of cloud providers that are quite popular out there. And it's been a thing for a long time. But we do need to sit down as security people and really work out, you know, what is this new world going to look at? That compounding with the need for, you know, third-party reviews, because a lot of the solutions that we're seeing at the moment are software as a service or infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. Everything's going as a service and has been for a little while now. So making sure that the security of those service providers is adequate and up to scratch is going to be a real big thing going forward. It has been for a little while, But with the SolarWinds and everything going on there, I think that vendors are going to start coming under that particular spotlight as well, and quite rightly too. Sip of the coffee from the stolen mug. Okay, so emerging technology. I think there's a lot of innovation going on at the moment. Much of it because of what's going on. We've got healthcare innovations, we've got network and sort of IT services innovations, we've got new security products, refocusing of security products and what have you on areas that were a little bit stale before occurring. Cryptocurrency, if any of you have been living under a rock, then Bitcoin is just nudging towards 40 grand per Bitcoin. There's a lot of big institutions around the world, big investment companies who are looking to get into that space and are looking to create portfolios with massive amounts of Bitcoin. One of which is Grayscale, is a good example, who own astronomical amounts of Bitcoin at the moment and really sort of pushing down that route. And it's pushing up the cost and pushing up the price of Bitcoin quite substantially. Now, I've been into cryptocurrency for a little while now, in fact for quite a while. It's certainly an interesting area, and I think with fiat currency being printed in the UK and in the US and in a number of other geographical locations at an unprecedented rate, I think you're probably going to see cryptocurrency becoming a lot more utilised within the industry. There's a lot of coffee companies out there at the moment where you can go and buy a coffee, where you can start buying it with cryptocurrency. There's a lot of trials for that. Avocation of cryptocurrency and the adoption of cryptocurrency in a number of areas is becoming quite important. Excuse me, I haven't got COVID, just got a little bit of a cold. He says as he takes another sip of coffee. Where was I? Yeah, cryptocurrency. There's going to be a much more larger adoption of it going forward. In what form, I don't know. Obviously all we can go really off is Bitcoin or Ether or some of the popular ones at the moment. There's always rumblings of other coins coming out, stable coins and Libra coins, which has now been rebadged to something else. The old Facebook coin thing. I think this is going to be a big thing going forward. So if you're looking to get into information security at the moment, and you're in uni, well, you're not really in uni at the moment, you're kind of working from home, or you're trying to figure out what's going on with your uni course, start looking at cryptocurrency and the security of cryptocurrency and how you would secure wallets, how you would secure environments where cryptocurrency payments are being taken and undertaken. It's going to be quite a big area, I feel, going forward. We're not quite there yet, but people who can develop specialised kind of information security in that space, you're going to probably do well going forward. So if you are a student, start looking at that. Artificial intelligence is another one. Now, artificial intelligence is a bit of a bugbear of mine. A bugbear mainly because everybody is saying at the moment, a lot of vendors are saying, our products have got AI components within it, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. Well, AI is not quite at that state yet, it depends on what those claims are, But artificial intelligence is going to be a thing going forward. There are some big names and some big organisations that are putting a lot of money into developing true AIs and various different AI capabilities. Another good area for budding security people to look at, to get into, and to start developing careers within. Because I think going forward, I couldn't tell you how many years, probably a few, AI is going to become big money items, along with cryptocurrency. The world is still progressing towards a very digital format. It has been for many years, since the beginnings of the internet. And some of the biggest companies on the planet now are predominantly digital. based. So look at Amazon, for instance. Look at the market share that they have at the moment, especially with everything going on. But Amazon don't just supply you with stuff that you order off the internet. They've also got all kinds of other solutions and services that they provide as well outside of that. And they're gathering more and more every day. They're buying up companies like Billio at the moment, along with a number of these larger organisations like Facebook, for instance. Oculus. Look at that. They bought Oculus for a ridiculous amount of money, and they're developing sort of virtual reality at an unprecedented rate. And that's another area that I think is going to become important, especially at the moment. We can't have live events now. At the moment, that's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think, unfortunately. If you're an events company out there, sorry about that. So people are looking into kind of more virtual events, and way to have events in a more secure and safe manner, whereby you go around a virtual environment and you can look at products, you can have conversations with people. And in many respects, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. I've got some dealings with a company called NixVX, who's got some really good technology around this space, and there's a lot of interest in that area at the moment. So let's see where that one goes. But yeah, VR, AI, cryptocurrency, I think there's going to be a lot of development companies out there as well who are developing all kinds of new products and solutions for this new world, and the way that we're working and the way that it's going to interact with those technologies. So again, getting into development companies who are at the forefront of that, who've got some good investment, is a really good way to kind of begin your career and start your career. Or even if you're already in infosec, it's a good career path to take at the moment. There's going to be a lot of money in that space. Just like anything, with all the companies that are failing at the moment, going under, having serious difficulties because of the economic problems behind this pandemic, out of the ashes will rise a new phoenix in the form of new companies who are taking over from where the old ones left off, maybe with a more kind of forward-thinking view. That's not to say those old companies aren't great; they are, But let's look at it. We've been forced to change in a way that we've never been forced to in the past. We've been forced down an avenue and a route that isn't going to stop anytime soon. So we need to ride that wave. You can't fight against the sea when it's coming in. You have to go with it. And security is going to change accordingly. As new technologies, as some of the stuff that I've been talking about comes to fruition, we're going to have to shift the way that we look at security. We're going to have to look at how we use our vendors, how we use our third parties, how we interact with our customers. The world is rapidly changing, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how it pans out in the long run. I'm quite eager. The security space at the moment is very, very strong. Obviously, with everything going on, it's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I see a lot of stuff out there about vendors saying, use our products, use this. It'll save the world. It'll protect you from all kinds of terrible things. It's like, look, these are vendors. They're looking to sell their product. That's what their marketing is based around. But the first port of call when it comes to information security is to really kind of sit down and do the governance piece. Look at the business, look at what you're there to do, look at what your employer is facilitating, what are their revenue streams, protecting those revenue streams. Don't look at the vendors straight away, look at your organisation as an organisation, as a business first, because as information security people, that's the first rule of business is protect your investment, and you are there to protect that investment. You are there advising the bosses, the powers that be, the C-suite, whoever it is you report to, on security. Now, one tip there, don't offer just one route. If
something has come up and you need to facilitate a security requirement or protect an organization or whatever it is you're feasibly there to do, don't ever go in with one option, okay? Always look at 2 or 3. Come up with a couple of possible ways to facilitate some kind of security countermeasure and talk those through with your bosses, because ultimately they're the ones with the hands on the purse strings. They understand that they need to protect their investment, and it's for you as the information security professional to kind of prove that to them, to show them the way. Don't get overzealous about it, but at the end of the day, that's what you're there to do, so do it. I think 2021 is going to be a bit of an odd year. I think a lot of people had hoped that the pandemic will be done by now, or at least we'd be back to a working state. I didn't think that was going to be the case, and I thought it would push over into this year. Is this year going to be a write-off? No, I don't think it will entirely, but I think we're still going to go through some hard times at the first part of this year. Vaccines are rolling out at the moment. Is there enough for everybody? Well, some people say yes, some people say no. It's going to take a little while for those vaccines to roll down from those who are most vulnerable or need it the most, like the healthcare workers, that kind of thing, critical infrastructure people, down to the general public. So I think we're going forward. We're going to experience life like this for a little bit longer, maybe a lot longer. I don't know. There's new strains of this particular virus happening all over the place, and reports of it coming in from God knows where, including the UK. I'm in the southeast, for example. We've got one here, allegedly. So, we're going to have to ride that wave to its final destination, and then from there, adapt, survive, and move on. As security people, we are good at doing that. We can't get stuck in our ways because the ways change. So I'm going to be doing a lot of different material over the next couple of months. We can't go anywhere, so I've got nothing more than time. When I'm not facilitating customers, consulting-wise, doing the PCI DSS audits, which is quite interesting at the moment because a lot of them are being done remotely because obviously no one could travel anywhere. But I've got a fair bit of time to provide content. So if there's any content that you want me to go over, if there's any content that you want me to address, then give us a shout. The contact details are down in the descriptor. Please feel free to subscribe, press the little bell button, leave a comment. It's great for the algorithm. It's great for getting the news out there. We're still a very small, very, very small budding channel. I'm hoping to increase that and provide some good quality advice in the infosec space going forward. So if you do have any interest in any of this and you want me to cover anything, then please feel free. And equally, if you are an information security professional in one of these emerging technological areas that I've described before, get in touch. I'd love to interview you. I'd love to find out a little bit more about what it is you guys do, some of the concerns that you have, and maybe we can give back to those infosec people who are in the early stages of their career or looking to move into that space, so we can provide them with good information. At the end of the day, we're all infosec people. Let's help one another out, okay? All right, this is me. This is 2020 finished. Now we're going into 2021. Good luck to you all. Have a great new year. Be safe and look after yourselves. Cheers. Bye.